the thing is, we have not appreciated what it means to do shirk with Allah. In terms of the gravity of the sin, yes, but in terms of what does shirk exactly mean? How exactly does a person do shirk wal-iyadhu billah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We spoke about Tawheed, Rububiyyah and Uluhiyyah. We said Uluhiyyah is that a person devotes their ibadah, and not just ibadah in the very ritualistic sense, but in terms of the spirit behind ibadah, being something of showing reverence, awe, greatness, love, hope, trust, reliance on and only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. So Allah is saying, this is only for me. Now if you took a share of any of those feelings and emotions and showed it to someone other than Allah, then you have done shirk with Allah. And shirk is of levels. But the main thrust of it is that if you took some of these emotions and felt them towards someone other than Allah, then you would have an element of shirk in you. Yeah, you would have an element of shirk in you. Now, with that in mind, I want you to reflect over the celebrity culture that we see in our times. Yeah, it's something that is, the celebrities are not just celebrities of the movie industry or the music industry, but you have sports stars, for example. They're equally as big as celebrities as some of the rock stars. So this celebrity culture, would you believe, my brothers and sisters, that non-Muslim academics have studies in which they suggest that the reality of the celebrity culture is in fact a culture of celebrity worship. Culture of celebrity worship. Now I want to read out something I read in the British Journal of Psychology, at a paper that was published in 2002. It reads as follows: celebrity worship has been conceptualized as having pathological and non-pathological forms. Analysis on both fronts can be done by conducting celebrity worship questionnaires. So they got questionnaires, they designed questionnaires, and they began to ask all of these fans of various celebrities, pop stars, movie stars, etc., etc. And after they got them to fill it in, then they began to analyze it. So they said by conducting the celebrity worship questionnaires, they managed to piece together a celebrity worship scale, which they shortened as CWS. This covers areas such as acting, music, sports and others, like the gaming figures. They identified the highest forms of celebrity worship as being a mixture of empathy with the celebrity's successes and failures. What that means is that a person, he can only feel happy when he knows that my favorite movie star is happy. If he finds out that his favorite movie star is unhappy or being exposed in the paper, he feels unhappy too. And his happiness and his sadness, it depends upon this figure. Number 2, over-identification with the celebrity. Over-identification with the celebrity means that the person forgot who they are, but rather when they see that person on the poster, they feel that they are that person. And they identify themselves with that person to that extent. Number 3, compulsive behaviors. Compulsive behaviors like stalking. Stalking is something which is a huge problem for these celebrities, that people, their fans, one day they're writing to them, the next day they're visiting them, the next day they're following them, wherever they go, whichever country they are, they find that same person there and is stalking them. This is a psychological problem. Yeah, this is going to becoming a psychological problem. This is compulsive behavior. As well as an obsession with the details of the celebrity's life. And they need to know everything. Where they went, how they performed, how many people came, everything. They want to know every little detail about that person's life. And they said, some of them experience erotomania. Erotomania, means a person is totally infatuated with another. He is totally in love with that person. In an extreme sense, in an extreme, like a manic sense, basically, that person has these feelings towards. So when they did the celebrity worship questionnaires, what they concluded was that many of the fans held these feelings towards these group of individuals. Now, there are many parallels between these group of individuals and those idols that the Quraysh worshipped 1435 years ago. Number one are these emotions. Same emotions. They felt the same things towards those idols. They would call out to them. Why would they call out to them? Why would they spend money and sacrifice to them? Because they wanted to make them happy. They wanted to make them happy. When they knew they were happy, they would be happy. If they thought that this God has been defamed or this God has been spoken against, they too would become angry. Yeah, they too would become angry. I think I mentioned this in Surah Yasin. So the emotions are one thing. There's three other parallels which I thought of. Number one, you see the idols that the Quraysh worshipped were in fact manifestations or they were manifestations of past figures. The Lat, Manat, Uzza were in fact three individuals that lived before. Yeah, they lived before and they were known and respected amongst the community. After they died, then the people said we should have something to demarcate their place of death. And so they built a tomb over their graves. After that, generations came, they said these were people who our fathers used to revere. We should do more than just this, we should build something in remembrance. So they built a statue. Others that came later, and shaitan is working in the background, they said let's all have one of these idols. So these idols are in fact manifestations of human beings, a select small group of human beings being revered by a huge group of others. That is another parallel. Celebrities are just a handful of people, but they are revered by millions, billions across the world. So that is another parallel. Another parallel is that the relationship is one direction. The celebrity has no idea who you are. You are all my fans, I don't know, and maybe he doesn't even care. There is no relationship from this person to the other. But the masses, they flock to this person. Their relationship is for them, but it is not in the reverse. In the same way, the idols did nothing for the people, yet the people still flock to them. That is yet another parallel. So as we dissect this slowly, what we come to realize is that, you know what? Shirk is just as manifest as it was then. In fact, it may be even worse than that. For Allah said when you ask them, Man khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, la yaquluna Allah. If you ask those Quraysh that are worshipping those idols, who created everything, they would say Allah. So they used to do shirk with Allah, but they still believed essentially in a creator. But look at most of these fans today. Most of them don't believe even in a creator. So the shirk is even worse. It's even worse. So subhanallah, shirk, my brothers and sisters, need to be understood and appreciated in more than just a very narrow sense of a person bows down to an idol, a person does puja and he's a mushrik. La. It is much more than that, and that is why in the Quran you find Allah spoke about shirk not in terms of the behavior but in terms of the emotion. Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا, that there are people who have taken beneath Allah andad, meaning deities. In which sense? يُحِبُّهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ, that they love them like they ought to have loved Allah. Subhanallah. It is not about them bowing down, giving money, sacrificing. No, it is about inside. You felt that love for somebody else, you ought to have felt it for me. And even in Surah Yasin, that they have taken beneath Allah deities, لَعَلَّهُمْ يُنصَرُونَ. لَعَلَّهُمْ يُنصَرُونَ means that they would pin their hopes in them, that they hoped that somehow this figure would bring about some blessing in my life. And isn't that exactly the same way? Self-identification, over-identification rather. That they believe that happiness will come to them the more and more they can be like that figure. And it seems like it is exactly the same thing. In fact, it is exactly the same thing. And that is why shirk is as prevalent in our times as it was then. Therefore, we first and foremost should be wary of shirk like never before. We should be asking Allah to save us from shirk. And imagine Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was the father of Tawheed. And the pinnacle, of someone who manifested a correct belief in Allah was Ibrahim al-Hanif. Yeah? But he said, جُنُوبَنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامِ. He cried out to Allah with a prayer. What was that prayer? Junubani, save me, wabaniya, and my offspring from what? Na'bud al-asnam, from worshipping idols. Come on, Ibrahim alayhi salam? Yes, because it is that subtle sometimes that you cannot see it. And it is that great a sin that you better beg Allah to save you from it. So this is the other lesson that we can learn, that the prevalence of shirk in reality is as big as it was back then, maybe even more. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from shirk and to save our children from ever falling into shirk. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.